If you have low back pain, then quite simply, there's one thing that you need to know about above all others, and that is low back pain red flags. In today's video, I'm going to go through what red flags are, why they are so important, what they look like, and what to do if you develop any of them. Now, this is a very serious and important topic, but make sure you stay tuned until the end, where I'll be giving you some reassurance about the incidence of low back pain red flags. Hello, it's Luke here from Genuine Physio, where we bring you honest, evidence-based information and education to get you guys back on the road to recovery. If you're new around here, please subscribe to the channel, and if you like what you see, a thumbs up is always appreciated. As always, there'll be some useful links in the description below, and we'd love to hear from you. So either come and say hi on social media, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, or better still, drop a comment below and let us know what you think of the videos, and if you have any ideas for future content, that would also be appreciated. And with all that out of the way, let's get going. So what is a red flag? Well, a red flag by itself is one, but it can also be a set of symptoms that could indicate serious or sinister pathology that would normally need urgent medical attention. For back pain, we are concerned about the spinal cord becoming compressed or compromised. Spinal cord compression can happen through a number of different ways. Spinal tumour or cancer, spinal stenosis if there has been significant enough trauma, but lastly a lumbar disc herniation, and that is what we're going to focus on today. Now, when you have a lumbar disc herniation that is significant enough to push on the spinal cord in the lower back, we would refer to this as cauda equina syndrome. The reason this condition has this strange name is because cauda equina means horse's tail in Latin. We all have a cluster of nerves in our lower back that fan out and then travel down our legs. And the point at which they fan out does look a little bit like a horse's tail. Now, these nerves have very, very important jobs. One of their jobs is to provide power and sensation to our legs and our feet. Another one of their jobs is to make sure that our bladder and our bowels function properly. And another one of their jobs is to make sure that our sexual organs work properly. So, if this area of the spinal cord does become compressed, you are at risk of having issues with all of these things. Today, we're going to go through the 6 symptoms that you need to understand, be aware of and monitor when it comes to cauda equina syndrome. Just a quick heads up, guys, try not to blush because things are going to get a little bit personal. Number 1, are you having fun? Because if you are, you probably do not have spinal cord compression. Generally, if you do have cauda equina syndrome, your pain levels tend to be quite high and your level of function tends to be quite low. You'll probably find that the pain is affecting most of the things that you do day to day, and there's every chance that it is keeping you up at night. The other thing that we want to know about in terms of pain is, what is the pain doing? Is the pain getting better? Is it staying the same, or is it getting worse? If the pain is getting better, we're probably slightly less concerned. Whereas if it's getting worse, we're probably slightly more concerned. But do remember, pain is very subjective and everybody experiences pain very differently. Symptom 2, can you control your poo? Now, as previously mentioned, the area of the spinal cord we are talking about is responsible for both your bladder and your bowel function. So if it does become compressed or compromised, then you may notice changes in your bowel habits. So have you noticed any accidents or leakage recently? Do you know when you are starting to go, and are you able to stop going when you want to? Do make sure you haven't got any underlying bowel issues. Things like IBS and other gastrointestinal problems can cause bowel incontinence. Symptom 3, can you control your wee? Now, we're concerned about any new changes to your bladder habits. Whereas with bowel dysfunction, we are only concerned about incontinence. We are not concerned about constipation because there are many reasons you can become constipated. With bladder dysfunction, we are concerned about both incontinence, so not being able to control your urine flow, but also bladder retention, which means when you want to go, but you're not able to go. Again, be aware that there are many other conditions that can cause bladder dysfunction. Things like urine infections, kidney infections, and stress incontinence are all very common. Symptom 4, have you fallen on the floor? Now, bilateral leg symptoms refers to any new changes to the power, sensation or pain in both of your legs. Now, you can get similar symptoms down one leg if you have an episode of true sciatica or ridiculous low back pain, and I'm going to bring out a whole video on this very topic to address some of the confusion around sciatica very soon. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it, and there will be a link in the description below in the next couple of weeks. And with that shameless plug out of the way, in terms of power, have you noticed your legs getting any weaker? Are you able to flex your ankles up and down? Have you noticed your legs giving way underneath you? In terms of sensation, have you noticed any tingling, pins and needles or numbness in both legs? And in terms of pain, we're talking neuropathic pain, often described as sharp, shooting, electric type pain, and it normally follows quite a specific pathway down the leg. Symptom 5, does your bottom feel alive? Now, the part of the spinal cord we are talking about is responsible for providing sensation to the area of skin that will be in contact with a saddle if you were to go on a bike ride. I'll leave that to your imagination. But we would be concerned about any numbness or loss of sensation in this area. Last but not least, symptom 6 is sexual dysfunction. And as you can imagine, we came up with lots of rhymes for this one. However, we've left them out because they weren't all that appropriate. Anyway, we would be slightly concerned for women if you noticed any numbness or lack of sensation and or incontinence during intercourse. And for men, we would be slightly concerned about any changes to your ability to get and or maintain an erection, or any changes in your ability to ejaculate during intercourse. As usual, make sure you haven't got any underlying conditions that could be responsible for these symptoms. And on the off chance there are any clinicians watching this video, then please make sure you ask patients about sex. The reason for this is because you can have spinal cord compression with sexual dysfunction as a symptom in the absence of all of the other symptoms that we have spoken about today. So if you don't ask it, things could get missed. In a recent Physio Matters podcast, they highlighted a piece of research that completed questionnaires on patients that had been recently screened for cauda equina. And what they found was that those that had been asked about sexual dysfunction thought they were being asked if they were sexually active or not. This highlights a couple of things. Firstly, the fact that obviously we need to ask people about sexual dysfunction, but secondly, we need to explain and be specific about why we're asking these questions. I'll pop a link to that brilliant podcast in the description below. To reiterate, because there are so many conditions that can lead to some of the symptoms we have spoken about today, we are concerned with new, acute, worsening symptoms. And the reason it is so important to understand what they are and be aware of them is because there is only a very small window of opportunity to make a difference and have a positive outcome. And that is because the longer the spinal cord is compressed or compromised for, the more likely you are to have negative outcomes and long-term problems with all of the symptoms that we've spoken about today. So what do you do, I hear you ask, if you have any of these symptoms? Well, the answer is fairly straightforward. You need to act quickly. That window of opportunity I was talking to you about is very small, and the research actually suggests that it's probably less than 48 or 24 hours. So you need an assessment from a clinical specialist as soon as possible. And the quickest way for most of us to get this will be to take ourselves down to the local emergency department. When you get there, let them know about your symptoms. They will have a very thorough understanding of cauda equina syndrome and how important it is, and then they will complete an assessment on you. After they've done this, they will discuss the findings with you and have a chat about whether further investigation is appropriate or not. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video, if you stay tuned until the end, I'll give you a bit of reassurance. So with all the serious stuff out of the way, let's just put into context how common cauda equina syndrome really is. So it's only 1 in 33,000 to 100,000 people that actually develop the syndrome. And of the people that actually have symptoms, only 16 to 19% go on to develop cord compression. So it is very rare, but given the severity of the impairments it can leave you with, and given how common back pain is, it is well worth having a chat with your friends and your family about the symptoms, because if we can make a difference to just one person, this video will be well worth doing. So just to recap, the single most important thing we need to do if you have a new episode of low back pain before we start talking about treatment and management is rule out anything serious or sinister. And we do this very simply by going through our red flag symptoms. And they are severe pain, bowel incontinence, bladder incontinence or retention, bilateral leg symptoms, saddle anesthesia, and sexual dysfunction. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I really hope you found the video useful. If you have, then a thumbs up is always appreciated. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more of Genuine Physio's videos. We're keen to keep things interactive, so come and say hi on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Obviously, you can talk to us on here too. And that is what I want you to do. So before you go, I would love to know if maybe you've had cauda equina syndrome. You can share some information about that with everybody. That would be very useful. But also, if you have none of these symptoms and you found the video gave you the little bit of reassurance that you needed, that there wasn't anything serious going on, I'd love to hear from you too, so pop a comment below. And until next time, I'll see you again very soon.